Since I started riding 9 years ago, I've taken about $20,000 worth of riding courses in all different kinds of riding styles. Some I paid out of pocket, some were comped in exchange for a video, but I'll go through them all, letting you know what the cost would be for you, as well as some of the best and weirdest but effective tricks that I've gotten from each. Even if you take all of these classes, they're pretty much useless without this one tip that I'll make sure to share with you at the very end. All right, so first up, in no particular order, is adventure training with Jocelyn Snow. And it can range from about $1,200 to $2,000, depending on whether it's solo or with a group, and if you do it for 1 or 2 days. So when I first took the course with her, she put me on her bike. She usually doesn't do that, and I might have ruined it for you, sorry about that. In her adventure course, it's the coolest adventure course I've ever taken. So what she does differently than other adventure courses is that it's not necessarily just drills with a outlined path or cones, or okay, you're practicing zigzags. Yeah, you're doing all those things, but you're doing it on an obstacle course she literally built over rocks, seesaws, tires, gnarly ramps, sand pits, gravel pits. Like, it feels like you're in a playground for an adventure bike. This woman is legit. She's 5'1½", can't touch the ground on her GS 1250. She's the reason why I didn't quit motorcycles. One of you told me about her when I was saying, I can't handle taller bikes, I should just quit riding. I looked up her tips on YouTube, I became a huge fan, and I messaged her and told her how much I learned from her. So she invited me out to California to go train with her. The weirdest trick that I got from her that I still to this day apply to all different kinds of riding is when I failed one of the obstacles, she didn't say, okay, do this with your hands, you need to be more loose, whatever. She said, baby chicks or butterflies. And basically made me pretend that I had baby chicks in my hands and think about that as I was riding. So basically, she was trying to get me to not be so tense and to be more loose on the handlebars. But instead of just saying that, which if you're an overthinker, that might not be helpful, which I think she knew that I was. That one tip made me do that obstacle successfully. That was it. That was all she told me, basically. Well, no, she told me more than that, but. So if you're in the California area, if you're across the country, I recommend trailing your bike over there, taking 2 weeks off of work so you can make that drive, and it's so worth it. It's one of the funnest, fascinating classes you'll learn, and she and Steve make a great team. This next one is on the other side of things. That's slow speed skills, normally on baggers, but it doesn't have to be. It's also BYOB, bring your own bike. It's Ride Like a Pro, taught by Jerry Palladino, retired motor police officer. He's been a motor officer and instructor on Harley baggers, so that's usually what he teaches. And so a lot of people on Harley baggers go to his class. But you don't have to be in a bagger. I showed up on my Triumph Tiger 900. There was one guy on a live wire. If the whole class is Harley baggers and you're the only one on something else, he might give you a slightly different tip. You don't need a bagger to do these police drills. This one is usually from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's a franchise, so he's got locations all around the US. Actually, not just US, but if you want it from Jerry Palladino himself, he is in Florida, just outside of the Tampa area. The course is under $200. And keep in mind that I'm listing these prices, but prices can change. So don't email them and say, hey, well, I just saw this video by Doodle and said this course is this much. Prices can change, but probably the best trick that I got from, not the best trick, but I'd say the most helpful for me, just being able to take a big bike off the kickstand. And that's turning the handlebars the opposite way of the kickstand. So a lot of my short rider tricks that I show on baggers, I've gotten that from Jerry Palladino, and then more recently learning to pick up a 900-pound bagger from Lock and Lean. So this one, the exercises are all set out at about 24 feet U-turns. So if you practice your U-turns in 4 parking spaces, so like a box like that, that's gonna be 18 feet wide by 36 feet long. And if you just practice that for about a week before you go to his class, even just 10, 20 minutes, the class will be so much more worth it to you. You'll get so much more out of it versus some people who come and never practice. They can't do any of the exercises, and then they either quit or they stop, they take breaks, and they just never get the concepts and they have to come back. Make sure you practice before you go. Just trust me on this one. I used to take his course maybe like once a year, and I wouldn't practice, and every time it was as if I was starting over. It was, I can't believe he kept training me. It was so embarrassing. But once I started that U-turn challenge, I was about 6 days into practicing those U-turns. And 100 U-turns only takes about 10, 20 minutes in the parking lot. And after 1 week of practicing my U-turns, that was the first time I ever went to Jerry's class, and I actually did all the exercises correctly, like each time. So this next course is kind of related. It's lock and lean, and that is taught by motor police officers. Lock and lean is 3 full days of training. Some of the exercises go as tight as 18 foot wide, so you better be on it. There are a lot more cones. You're gonna feel claustrophobic. There's a ton of cones and they're really tall. There's a lot of patterns. At least as of making this video, it's not a franchise. They travel all around the US, but you'll get trained directly either from Ben Wolf, who's a current active duty motor officer, and Jeff Beck, who just recently retired as a motor officer. So when I first took it, there were 4 levels, from 101, 102, 201, 301. And I think that's the one that nobody has ever passed, because that's where you go head to head with the Ben Wolf instructor himself. Now he's added level 100. And that one's just 1 day, and it's about $200, $500 if you use a rental. The rentals are limited, they're police road kings, but not all locations have rentals, so just make sure you check that if that's important to you. But when I took 101, it was $650, 3 full days. And when I say 3 full days, I mean like 3 full days, and it is intense. So far I've taken 101 and 102. I don't know what it is with these guys. They are so intense. It's like a boot camp. Here's what they'll do. As long as the students seem like we're all really into it, nobody's passing out or getting really tired, they'll keep going. And that first day especially is like the most intense. We trained for over 12 hours that first day. It was exhausting, but they just really want to make sure that you get it. They really want you to pass, and not everyone passes the course. It's the hardest slow speed course I've ever done. And that one was very essential to practice before going, and probably even in between levels ideally, but it is so worth it. After doing even just the first level, 101, that's when I started thinking, maybe I want to do competitions. I never had that thought before. I guess because these are current active duty motor instructors, and they also host a lock and lean competition. With those 3 days of exhaustion, you all just kind of trauma bond, and you can see students again and again since there's so many levels, and you can keep taking the levels over and over again, even if you've passed it. That one was not comped. And when it comes to comped or being comped, sometimes instructors will approach me and they'll invite me and they'll say, we're gonna cover this or we'll discount this. When I approach a school or instructor, I never ask if they'll give a comp or a discount in exchange for a video. If they offer it, I accept. But I never ask, especially if it's something that I really wanna do and I approached them. But the weirdest trick that I got in lock and lean, turn your head before you start turning, and turning your head will help you make the turn. But in lock and lean, there are way too many cones and way too narrow of a path and way too many irregular paths to do that. Like, you have to look where you're going. So what they say at lock and lean is lean forward. If you'll see, like at police rodeos, police will often be really high up on the seat of their bikes. Maybe their bike seat might even be raised. The lean forward was so essential. I kind of go into that more in detail in this video titled like weirdest U-turn trick. Just keep in mind that all these tips I'm doing, these are tips that the instructors gave me personally for my riding skill, my riding style, my riding level, and the bike I was on, and where I'm at in my riding journey. They may tell you something different. Really, the best thing you can do is go to these classes yourself and have the instructor look at you and what you're doing on your bike, and they may tell you something different. Precision Track Day, I've taken just a couple of those last year, both in the novice category, so I can't speak for the more advanced categories. But I can tell you that as a new track rider, It'll cost you about $200 to $600 depending on whether you do the 1 to 3 days. And their ratio of coaches to students, they really want to make sure that you get as much attention as you can. Whatever group you're broken out of, you could request another one, or you may have a very different experience based off of which coach you get. But I had 2 different coaches than I did on the first day. My coach on the second day that I had again the second time I went to Precision Track Day, that was Jamie Hester. And I found out that a lot of these coaches on track days might not get paid. They might just get free track time and some good deals like free tires and things, but they do this because they love it. But with Precision Track Day, all their coaches also race. So what Jamie Hester told me is to think of your arms as chicken wings. And again, that was something that applied for me and what I was doing. So what she was trying to tell me was, same thing that Jocelyn was trying to tell me, was that I was just getting too tense with my upper body and to loosen up. And just that one little tip really helped make my lines on the track just that much more intentional versus like, oops, didn't mean to go here, but good thing nobody was there. And Precision Track Day also has a 2-day masterclass. Ken Hill, who has coached professional racers. And that one is $2,000 because with Ken Hill, you get what you pay for. So Ken Hill was also part of the team that helped design Champ School. So Champ School, that's about $3,000. It's 2 days instruction on a track. It's a whole team of professional racers. And I'm talking like top of the top professional racers, all of them. Like when I took the course a couple years ago, Kyle Wyman was there teaching the advanced riders. Even though I was there as a novice, I still got some time with him. They rotate all these instructors. So if you're coming for one specific instructor, even if you're brand new and they only teach like the advanced, you'll still get some time with them. At one point, they take the students out on the track in a car so they can talk to a bunch of you with line placement, feeling the brakes. And at one point, I got put on the back of Kyle Wyman. And that was the most terrifying time of my life. Literally scarier than a roller coaster. So yes, it's $3,000, but you're literally getting training from someone who's the king of the baggers. And for Champ School, kind of one of the funniest tricks that they had us do, basically simulate like what would happen if you lost your vision for some reason, like maybe something got on your helmet or if a brake lever broke or something. They would have us do a lap with, the main one I remember is they put tape on your helmets. They said, this will simulate bugs. So just so you have like some kind of visual obstruction. And I think that just helps you because sometimes when you panic, you freeze and you forget your training. So being able to practice with a little bit of panic prevents that from happening. So that was something I remembered whenever I would practice my U-turns, like, okay, if I only practice in this super safe, perfect environment of my parking lot, then once I get on the street and if I'm trying to do a U-turn and I'm surrounded by cars or there's gravel, I might panic and not do it at all. So I just up the stakes, basically. I'd practice my U-turns with fully loaded bike, or I'd practice in the middle of the neighborhood, in the middle of the street. Something that would just give me a little bit of panic so that I could still remember the training with the panic.
Pause a second. See those sunglasses you see me wearing in class? Past Doodle has a message for you, so listen up.
Not a lot of people know this, but your glasses and sunglasses can shatter in an accident. You don't want that near your eye. So make sure you wear some shatterproof glasses, and these ones specifically are very flexible and thin. They fit great in a full face helmet, even if you don't have slits in your eyes.
Use discount code DOODLE10 on your Flying Eyes sunglasses or glasses.
You can get prescription and sunglasses in all different kinds of styles. Protect your eyes.
And SoCal Supermoto, it's one day, it's about $400. This is probably the most fun thing you can do of all of these courses that's the most affordable. And it's on Supermotos, they're on little bikes. It's not like a track day or slow speed skills that it's all about precision and accuracy. Brian, the lead instructor there, he is what you might think a Supermoto instructor might be. He is hilarious. He just makes it so fun. This is the course where I felt like I was in an action movie trying to escape a villain. I mean, you're taking these little Supermotos on a street track and then later in the day you take it onto the dirt and you're jumping over. It's cool. Probably the weirdest trick from there is what Brian tells you to do in your head, say F you, as you're turning, and it helps you just be more aggressive into the turn. Wheelie University in California is 1 day and it's about $700, and you learn how to wheelie on some Triumph Speed Triple 1050s. So that's the same bike that's shown in Mission Impossible 2, where they have that ridiculous wheelie battle. And the tech on it, that's something that Brian designed himself. And he's pretty private about it, so he photoshops every single photo that goes out. It wasn't easy to get his permission to film, but he did finally agree. Yeah, you may have seen me do a video where I'm trying to train like Tom Cruise filming in his class, but some of these curriculums or tech they use, this is their baby. So just keep that in mind. If you go to any of these classes, make sure you get permission to film. So the Wheelie University, everybody was wheeling very quickly. Like there's some instruction early on, I think because of the tech that he has on the bikes, and it's not BYOB because of this tech. The tech just helps keep the wheelies. I think it probably makes it a little bit easier for someone that's first starting out. Probably the most unexpected tip from that, kind of the way he would tell us to wheelie. He would say like, chop, chop. That's kind of the hand motion you wanted to do. Obviously there's a lot more to it than that, but chop, chop, and then your rear brake, especially when you're practicing without the tech, like feathering that rear brake. So again, please do not take these lessons as your replacement for these courses. You definitely need to go to the instructors yourself to really get the full scope. Okay, so next on the list is a ton of MSF courses. There was one year when I wanted to see if I could still do the MSF basic course. Like, would I still pass? Would I remember any of those things? Because this was before I started practicing in the past couple of years on my own. It was harder than I thought to do that MSF entry-level course. Not at the beginning, but towards the end of the day when they have you do more of the precision stuff. I think I took the MSF basic course. That one was about $300. And then there's the basic 2, the MSF advanced, the MSF dirt bike course, that one's still around, the MSF trail course, and all of those range anywhere from like $145 to $175. These prices can change. Right now I'm posting this, it's January 2025. It may be different by locations too. Different facilities may have different space for you and bikes that they can offer. And some of these are bring your own bike, and some of them they provide bikes. I took all my MSF courses in Alpharetta at the MSF campus. So that's like just outside of Atlanta. That one's a really good facility. There's a huge space for the street classes and also a big space for the dirt classes. And then they're partnered with Honda, so there's a ton of Honda bikes too. Not too long ago, you would have seen me do some off-road training with Daniel Sedlak, professional motocross and enduro racer. He's not doing it right now. His school has changed from Sedlak Off-Road to SoCal Off-Road School. So there's different instructors now, but previously he was training the Marines in a 2-week dirt bike program, kind of their own program of how they may need to ride off-road for combat. So it's not something that was available to the public, but it's something that I really wanted to show you guys because I just thought it was so cool. So if you saw that video and you were like, how can I do that training? Sorry, it's not available. But SoCal Off-Road School, and many schools really, it really just goes back to dirt bike training, getting some training on off-road, and there was just some military aspects included. So some other dirt bike training you saw me do this year was with Brian Garahan from Garahan Off-Road Training. So he's also been a professional racer. Now he has an off-road school in California, and I did a private lesson with him. That for about 3 hours was about $300. And the nice thing about private lessons is you can pretty much ask for very specific things. Like I really wanted to learn jumping, pivot turns, and stoppies. And he agreed to teach me those because a lot of courses may not teach you those specific things. So private lessons are definitely worth it for that if you want like some specific skills, or even if you just want extra attention, because you just can't wait to get to the fun stuff. You can't wait to have all these other skills that you practice until you can finally learn to wheelie. You want to wheelie right now. So as far as the tip that you need to make sure that all these classes aren't useless. Some people think I'm much more advanced in off-roading than I am because they've seen these videos of me riding, and I'm thinking, those 4 videos you saw me riding off-road, that's it. That's my adventure bike experience. How good of a rider were you after you went on your bike 4 times. That's the thing about these classes. Sure, I may train for 2 days with some of the best riders around, but without practicing, Moto Jiu-Jitsu says it's an 80-20 rule. If I did a class for 2 days, then I should practice those skills for 8 more days. And that was something I noticed firsthand. And that was something I really experienced with the slow speed skills. I would go back once a year, but I never practiced, so those skills didn't become my own. They became facts floating around in my head that I just forgot. Anytime you take a class, if you can, right after, practice those same things that you just did in a parking lot or off-road, those same exact things that you did every day for like the next week, and then Jerry says like once a week, even just 10 minutes a day is enough to keep from losing your skills. That's how you keep them, and that's how you get better. It's not just taking the courses, it's actually repeating and going through the motions. Luckily, I've got a big bagger. I haven't revealed that video yet. Oh well, you'll see that soon. And a parking lot, so I can practice slow speed skills frequently. When I was doing the challenges, I was doing it a lot, almost every day. But now, if I get out there once a week, that's good. But it's more been like maybe once a month. Once I can get this mini bike riding, hopefully I can start practicing again those wheelies and stoppies and pivot turns. Because right now, if you ask me to do one of those things, I'll be crossing my fingers.
I've made full videos on a lot of these courses, so if you want to see what it's like to take one of them, click right over here.